In this lesson titled Auto Sum and Auto Average, we're in Workbook 03, Creating Formulas and Functions, and we're on Worksheet tab, Sum Average. In a previous lesson, we talked about creating simple formulas and functions. And with those functions, some of the most common ones were sum and average. For instance, if I wanted to use a function here to give me the sum of January through May, I would simply type equals. We always start with equals. Then I'd type sum. I could choose from this list. I will double click sum, and then I'll simply make my selection and hit enter. And this gives me the sum. If I double click so I can edit, I can see again what I've done here, equals sum, and then here is the selection, and it's in parentheses the way we always do a function. So pretty quick, but it can be even a lot quicker. So I'm going to hit enter to leave the editing mode of that function. I'm going to delete it by just selecting it and hitting delete on my keyboard, and show you how you can create this even faster. On our Home tab, all the way to the far right and up above, and can be kind of small, depends on the resolution of your screen, you will see Auto Sum, and next to it is the little Auto Sum symbol. That's the sigma symbol in the Greek alphabet. It starts with an S, so you can see it kind of sounds like sum. All we have to do is simply select where we want AutoSum to do its magic, right here on Total, and I'm just simply going to click the button, AutoSum. It immediately identifies what it thinks I want to sum or to add up, and it gives me the entire equation, and it's simply ready for me to agree and hit enter. So I just simply have to hit enter. So let's try that again over here. Let's add up this row. All I do is hit AutoSum. If everything looks okay, I just hit enter. So extremely fast AutoSum and very useful. Now AutoSum does have to make some decisions about what numbers it's going to add up. So let's take a look at a little dilemma here. Let's say we want this to be our total, but AutoSum is going to have to make a decision. Does it add up these numbers? Does it add up these numbers, or maybe it tries to add up all the numbers? Let's take a look at what happens when we click AutoSum. You can see by default it wants to AutoSum all the numbers above. That's its priority. But if I wanted to change that, while I see the marquee here, while I see this animated selection, all I have to do is make a different selection, and you can see it here. I can click and go back here. For that matter, I could come over here and add up these numbers, right? The answer doesn't have to be close to the data, so I could simply make that selection. So I'm going to go back here and make this selection, and I can see my selection here. You can see I6 through I8, and here we are in I, and here we are 6 through 8, and just hit enter. So very important concept, that the priority is going to be coming from above or coming from the left if there is nothing up above, and also that you can make your own selection anytime you see that animated selection. Let's take a look at one other option here. So over here, let's say we want all of these totals, and I want them all down here. Well, I can click here and do AutoSum again. Now I'm going to hover over AutoSum and see if there isn't a shortcut. Do you see there where it says sum alt plus equals? Let's try that right here. We'll click right here. I'll hold down my alt key and hit equals. And that worked very well. And I'm going to click to accept. But I want to show you another shortcut to can make things even faster. So we'll click here. I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard to erase that. I'm going to select now all of these numbers, all of them. And let's see what AutoSum does. I haven't told it where I want my answer. I've simply selected all of my data. Up till now, we've always put the formula where we want the answer to be. Let's click AutoSum, and we see that just like over here in our example, by default, it wanted to add up and down first, and that's what it did. So over here, we got all of our totals. I'm going to type totals over here. If we wanted totals on our rows and our columns, let me show you how we can do that. So I'm going to select all of these, hit delete on my keyboard. I'm going to select all of these again, but this time I'm going to give one extra column space and one extra row space. This tells Excel that we're interested in answers here and we're interested in answers over here. So I'm going to hit AutoSum, and we see that I get my answers here. I'm going to hit Control-Z on my keyboard to undo. And sometimes this will happen. You'll make a selection like this. You'll accidentally get too many columns or too many rows, and I'll hit AutoSum. And what it does is it puts your answers all the way to the outside. And this might be what you're looking for if your totals was here and your total header was over here. So just be aware of that. I'm going to hit Control-Z to undo. And I'm going to show one other thing we haven't shown yet, and that is if I only wanted my answers to go over to the right side here, I only want these totals under this header here, totals, I would only highlight this column and I'd hit AutoSum. So we have a couple of different things we've learned here. We can force AutoSum to go to the columns to the right. We can force it to go down below by simply highlighting it. And we can also force it to go up and down and left and right by creating one extra column and one extra row for the answers. AutoSum, extremely powerful tool. Now, we called it AutoSum up till now, but it turns out there's a little tiny drop-down arrow next to AutoSum. If we click it, we can see there's actually also Auto Average, Auto Count Numbers, Max, Min, and there's even some more functions you can choose from. Let's try our Auto Average. So I'm going to change this to say Average. And why don't we change this to say Average as well. And I'm going to erase these total numbers. I don't want those there anymore. So now we just simply make a selection over all of our data, plus one extra row and one extra column. Now I come up to AutoSum, but I'm going to use my drop-down arrow and choose Auto Average. And there are our averages for the data. I'm seeing them down below and above. AutoSum and Auto Average, extremely useful tool. You'll want to play around with it, explore its capabilities.